Hey guys, hope you're doing well. My name is Saima and welcome to Saima's Experience. In a second, I'm going to go over why that car you saw in the thumbnail is missing its wheels. I want to do this video today because one of the questions that I noticed that continues to pop up down in the comment section below is claims not being paid out when your cars on Turo get damaged. So quick question for everyone tuning in, because of course everyone has different experiences. In your experience of being a Turo host, how often have you found that you run into an issue with Turo's claims and that your claims don't get paid out? So I would love to hear, because sometimes there are stories out there, obviously, of people going through difficult situations because claims weren't paid out. In my experience, for all those host friends that have reached out to me, I typically find that it's usually due to the fact that either the proper photos weren't taken in the check-in or checkout process, or the proper verification wasn't done in the very specific time frame that Turo has that you have to follow as a host in both the check-in and checkout process. So what I did was, because this is such a confusing thing when it comes to the check-in and checkout process for hosts, and it is for me too, even after all these years of doing it, I made a very simple diagram, which I'm going to show in just a couple minutes so that you know exactly when to take photos, when to upload, as it relates to the check-in and checkout process. This is going to completely simplify it and demystify it. And I do think that Turo's system does not make this easy or very transparent for hosts, especially new hosts who are inexperienced, you don't know yet, and you haven't gotten the flow of that system down. So it can be a major financial risk if you don't know how to go about working the system in the way that Turo requires it to be done. It can end up in, cars getting totaled, not being paid out. Trust me, I've heard from you guys, and I know it's a very painful experience. So with that said, if you are thinking about getting into Turo, while claims are few and far between, they don't happen often. The average claims rate is maybe 2 to 3% in a year, if that. For me, I've seen over the years that claims rate has gone down. So it's very few, but they can be major because you just never know what can go wrong. Kind of like that picture of my Mercedes-Benz you guys saw in the thumbnail, which I'm going to get to. So you want to make sure that you educate yourself before you go into it, because it can literally cost you thousands of dollars if you don't know what you're doing. But the process is overall very simple and very easy to learn. So Turo's website in itself is fantastic for that. You can go through their FAQ. They have majority of the information there. You can look online. I have a course available at powerhost.club. You're more than welcome to take that, but literally all of this information is available and at your disposal. So please, please, please do your homework before you get into it. Okay, now let's go over to this quick snippet I have of a C300 Mercedes-Benz I used to have listed on the platform. Now, what the real story is of what happened to this car, I will never know. Other than that, I got a call from my renter one day saying that he came out to the car in his gated parking garage and all of a sudden found that the car was left on bricks, no wheels, no tires, all 4 rims and tires had disappeared in the middle of the night, and it's probably one of the most shocking things that I've seen. Now, this Mercedes-Benz in particular had AMG rims on it, which I later came to find out are extremely expensive. I think it's because they have magnesium in them or something like that, which makes them very valuable. And so theft of these types of rims is very common because, of course, they can be sold for a lot of money. So this was one of those crazy experiences. And as you guys can see from the video, it was just, a complete hack job. And just coming to the scene of that was just, I don't really have words for it because it was just so insane. You just don't expect something like that to happen. And what I can say is where this renter was located was in an extremely nice area, a very safe neighborhood. Once again, it was gated. So, a lot of people had theories that maybe this was an inside job. Don't know, but the renter was very forthcoming, communicated well, helped me out in the claims process. But The reason why I'm sharing this example is because, again, really random and extreme things can happen. You just never know, right? There's just all types of people out there in the world that are up to no good, and that could leave you with a lot of liability if you are not prepared. Now, thankfully, in this scenario, obviously, I took proper check-in and check-out photos. You know, it's really easy to get photos of rims and tires, but rims are one of those things that very commonly get damaged, so you always want to make sure you take nice clear photos of all of your wheels and your tires just in case. So I had those uploaded to the reservation within 24 hours of the trip starting, and thankfully, Turo paid out on the claim. Now, as I mentioned, these rims were extremely expensive, which, you know, I had absolutely no clue about this. And my claim came out to, I think, just under $10,000 for the rims and tires on this car to replace them. So imagine getting stuck with that type of bill. That can be really crushing for a lot of people in their financial situations, and you don't want to end up in that situation. Okay, so with that said, let's get down the system of checking in a car and taking the photos, okay? I made this diagram for you guys to just make it super simple. Now here we have our trip start time, right? So let's, for an example, say the trip with your renter starts at Saturday, 10 a.m. Now you have 24 hours before the trip starts to take check-in photos of your trip. So that means Friday, 10 a.m., you can technically take photos of your vehicle and use that for the check-in process of your reservation. Now, for good measure, you always want to take these photos as close to the trip starting as possible. I usually do it within an hour before. So if my trip is starting Saturday at 10 a.m., typically by about 9 a.m. Saturday morning, I'm taking those photos, getting the check-in process going, and getting that guest checked in for their reservation. You know, you just never want anything to come to question should something go wrong and a claim open up. But technically, based on Turo structure, you can take it up to 24 hours prior to the start of a trip. Okay, so that's part one. Now, let's say you got those check-in photos before the trip started. Hopefully you did it just, you know, a couple hours or an hour before, and then your trip starts Saturday at 10 a.m. Just because you took the photos doesn't mean that, you know, it's already uploaded to the trip. A lot of people often forget to upload photos to the check-in process. I myself have done that too. You know, sometimes we're human, we make errors, and that's totally okay, but you just don't want to get caught in a situation where that gets you stuck with liability. Saturday, 10 a.m., the trip starts. Now you have 24 hours after the trip begins to actually get those photos uploaded to the trip and check into the trip, okay? This is very important. So now you have until Sunday, 10 a.m. to get those photos up. Just in case you forget, you know, you still have a 24-hour window to get them uploaded. Now, the reason why I say that you always want to do the check-in very close to the start of the trip is because you also want to verify identity. Now, I have no idea why Turo's check-in process works like this. It has always baffled me for 7 years of doing this, and I don't know why they don't fix this, but if you've gone through the check-in process, then you know you start off with uploading photos. Then you put in the mileage on your odometer and the level of fuel in your vehicle. So you document that part. And then the very last screen before you complete the check-in process is verifying the renter's identity. So they're going to give you a name and a date of birth, and you want to make sure that that matches up to their license. Now, sometimes what happens, and I've noticed this for many, many years, is that people will create profiles sometimes in a different name, sometimes the primary driver listed on the actual reservation doesn't match up to the name and date of birth that is at the end of that check-in process. Now, when it comes to ID verification, the person who is responsible for your vehicle and who should be picking up the car, that name and date of birth should match up to the name and date of birth at the end of that check-in process. This is very important because sometimes they can differ. And again, I don't know why there is that kind of issue in the system. So you want to make sure that you always check into a trip a little bit before the renter picks up the vehicle so that you can make sure you're verifying the ID to the correct name. Now, once you get to that screen where it displays the correct name and date of birth, you don't have to complete the process, right? It says, it gives you an option of, finish now or finish later, because if you still are waiting to meet your renter or waiting for them to upload a photo of their driver's license, you can make sure cross-check it, make sure it matches up, and then go ahead and hit complete on that check-in process. So extremely important. I can almost guarantee you, if you follow this and you take thorough photos of your vehicle before and after a trip starts and is completed, you will not run into issues with the claims department or should something go wrong. Again, in all my years of doing this, I have probably had, I don't know, hundreds of claims, right? If I've hosted close to 3,000 trips, 3% of that, that's a nice chunk of claims that I've experienced. I've never really had any claims get denied. Now, when it comes to checking in and checking out your car, I typically take, I would say on average, somewhere between 45 to 55 photos of my vehicle every single time. It's just habit and it's on autopilot for me. So it's so important to educate yourself about this because that is how you mitigate any risk or liability when it comes to your cars and hosting on Turo. So if you want to learn more about exactly how to take pictures, I will walk you through it. You can check out my course at powerhost.club and it'll take you through the whole process A to Z on how to do it in great detail. So make sure you're getting very detailed photos, and that includes obviously the exterior of your car, every part of it, every panel, every side. You want to make sure you get photos of your rims and your tires, and most importantly, also your interior, right? There's tons of instances where you get people who smoke in your car and there's ash and stuff left behind. And so you want to make sure that you do have photographic evidence of the interior of your vehicle and the condition in which you handed that car over to a renter. So should any of that type of stuff happen, there is a good before and after comparison. That is the whole point of these photos. So hopefully this helps you guys out, and I'm really hoping that this diagram that I made for you guys really simplifies it, because I completely understand that it can be kind of hard to understand the nuances in when to take photos and when to upload them. And kind of on a final note, when you check out a car, you also have 24 hours after the trip ends to upload those photos and take those photos. So the checkout is a bit simpler in that you're only working in one 24-hour time period window to take and upload photos. So you just want to make sure that you're extremely diligent about that. And when cars come back and they look like, oh, it's all good, nothing happened, you didn't catch anything, so I'm just not going to take photos. You never want to get into that habit, because there are countless amounts of times when, maybe you're in a hurry, maybe lighting isn't great, and so you don't catch damage. But if you take those photos and you upload them, then at least you have documentation should you see the damage the following morning, right? Because you still have 72 hours to get that claim filed. So very, very, very important. Please follow this stuff, because I see so many people who go through claims processes and their claims get denied. And once again, I would love to hear from you guys on what your experiences have been. But overall, my experience has been great, but that is 100% attributed to the fact that I put in the work of documenting the condition of my car. So it really has nothing to do with Turo. So you really have to just be very diligent when it comes to that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments section about what your experiences have been when it comes to claims. It's kind of good to get different sides of the story. So hopefully you find this helpful. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. And if you enjoy this channel, please be sure to subscribe. And once again, I appreciate all of you guys in the community and all the feedback that you guys always leave and share. And I look forward to sharing more with you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye.